Good afternoon all MSc students. So today we will be learning about the Unit 2 concepts. So already we have done with Unit 1 concepts. So Unit 2 concepts we will be learning now. So that is about basic softwares and concepts. Okay. So already I was telling you about what is hardware and software. Can anyone say what is hardware and what is software? Yes, ma'am? In your terms, no problem. In your terms, whatever you understand by that hardware and software. No one? Hello?
Ma'am, hardware means like physical devices, like ma'am.
Okay.
Software internally, like whatever we can see the internal components.
Okay. So here, to some extent, it's correct, ma. Okay. So here, hardware means the physical things, what you can feel, view, carry them. So those are all comes under hardware. Software means, say, suppose soft copy of your resume. You cannot feel it, but you can only see how logically it is existing within the system. You can only view in the display. Okay, mute yourself now. Okay, so such things comes under software. So those are the things what we have learned under hardware and software. So here today, as we are going to see about basic softwares and concepts. So we are going to learn the basic softwares. Okay, so that software hierarchy. So we have learnt about hardware. Did you remember how the CPU cabinet and everything hardware they are arranged on the motherboard? Do you remember all those? So that is the first layer. That is the first layer which is existing. Okay, so here the hardware is the first layer which is existing in the system. Okay, on the hardware something we call it as system software. System software are installed. See, when you are buying a new system, assembling of it is needed. Assembling means keeping everything on the motherboard when you on, so it has to come. So, but software, system software here means, so maybe what Windows. So as soon as you on the system, something should come onto the system, right? Okay, booting. So all that comes under system softwares. And then moving on to application software. Application software are something which using those we are able to do some application. And this is the user. Okay, so just remember this hierarchy. First we have the hardware. On that the softwares are installed, and on that we have application softwares, and these things are used by the users. Okay, so this is the hierarchy what we have. Here now we learn about the different softwares. So the next concept is about system software and application software. So software, when we are seeing that the logical things inside the system. So such logical things inside the system are divided into two again. One is system software and the other one is application software. Okay, so when we say system software, what exactly the system is having? Okay, with what the system is going to work. So that is what we call the system software. So by using this system software, what is its purpose? Okay, it provides the basic functionality to the computer. Basic functionality to the computer means booting, starting of the system, okay, controlling all the computer hardware, and also it gives the interface between the user, application software and computer hardware. Okay, so if you just see this, system software. Okay, here only you have one more thing, system hardware here. Okay, so what exactly the system software is doing? So it is acting like the intermediate one between the hardware and the users. Hardwares and the users. So without this system, it may not be BIOSed. So if you remember BIOSing, so for input output, so that BIOS system have to be installed for booting, to start the system, in order to accept the input devices, output devices, so all that comes under BIOS. Okay, so that's why this system software, it will act like an interface between user and the application software and the hardware. Okay, so that is the main purpose of system software. And this system software is again done for two purposes. The first one, for computer management it can be done, or for developing software it can be done. System software can be used for computer management, and the other use we can say for developing software. So computer management means operating system. Maybe whenever you on your system, it open with Windows, maybe 97, we might have started from 91, 95, 97, okay, so Windows 10. So like that, the different operating systems, it will come. So device drivers, see pen drive, CD drive, all the drivers also are managed by the computer management. That is the first use of your system software. And system utilities, if you know some utilities means like antivirus, things which comes which are very important for us for the system to be maintained, and the data compression, cryptography, disk compression, disk partitioning, maybe the memory or whatever you have, you might be dividing into drives. So all such things comes under system utilities. So all these three, whichever we are seeing, operating systems, device drivers, system utilities, all these comes under computer management. In order to manage the computers, these are the things which are useful as system software. Okay, but system software can also be used for developing softwares. So in order to develop a software for programming languages is nothing but where we can write some logic, execute, say some real-time problem you have. For that you are writing the logic, by giving the inputs, for that you are getting the solution. So that is what we call it as programming languages. And examples of programming languages, we can say object-oriented, and the languages which are not object-oriented. So C, it's not object-oriented, C++, Java. So these subjects comes under object-oriented. So when you learn about the detailed aspects of programming languages, then the concepts of object-oriented, object-not-oriented, so those things will be coming into picture. But only thing you just remember that programming languages means where we can write code. Using that code, we are going to get the solution for that problem. Okay. Translator software. So translator means maybe the text what we are using, English common language, so that may not be exactly understood by the system. Then we may need some translators. Say suppose 3 persons are there newly when you have joined, or maybe in general 3 persons are there, say some ABC. So A and C know English, but the intermediate person, he doesn't know English. Okay, so two of them know 2 different languages, only one knows all 3 languages. Then how to communicate? We keep the intermediate person. So the first person will communicate to the second one, and second one will communicate to the third one in his language. So that is what the translator. So for doing such things in the system, we have translator softwares. Okay, and linker. So linking of coding, the packages. Okay, so for that we need linker softwares also. Loader softwares. Just now I was telling you about booting. Okay, all such things, programming language, translators, linker, loader. So all these things comes under developing softwares. Okay, so that is about the system software. Okay, again I just give the brief of it. System software is the intermediate one between the hardware application software and the users. And system software can be used in two purposes: for computer management, in order to manage the computer system, and also in order to develop the softwares. So two things can be achieved by using system software. Okay, so then the second one we are talking about application software. So this is what I am talking about, application software. So by the name itself, application, so already it is developed by someone and it is readily available. If you need the software, you can use it. So here the software that a user uses for accomplish a particular task is known as application software. Say suppose many examples I have given here. Word processing software. So word processing means where you can create your resumes. Word documents you know, right? MS Office you might be using. Okay, so for preparing some documents. So such things can be done by using word processing softwares. And then next one, image processing softwares. So image processing softwares is nothing but, say suppose, tell me what is the image processing software we have generally we come across? Paint, no? You remember Paint? Okay, so for assistance in drawing and manipulating graphics, so Adobe photography, so all such things comes under image processing softwares. And moving on to the next one, accounting software. Say for accounting purpose, credit, debit, what is the balance, what are the transactions, maybe some formulas if you need. So all such things can be done by using Tally software. Tally software. Spreadsheet is something what we have Excel. So maybe in next few units you are going to learn about spreadsheets. That is using Excel, how we can do some functions applicable there, how we can, by using formulas, how all the cells can be added. So all such things can be done. Presentation software, it is nothing but PPT, what exactly we are doing. Okay, that is the presentation software. To make presentations, that is Microsoft PowerPoint. And web browser software, to access World Wide Web to search documents, sound, image, etc. So web browser softwares are something like the browsers what you install on your desktops. We have Mozilla, Chrome, okay, so many other browsers we have. So those are the web browser software. And graphic information system. Graphic information system means when you are owning your location, how exactly it can be tracked that at particular position you are. So it captures and stores, analyzes, manages, presents data, images and maps that are linked to different locations. GPS we say, no? So that is graphics information systems. So all such things which are already developed, using that as a user, we can do some specific task. So such things are called as application software. Here some examples I have given, you can just look at those, some of the application softwares here. PowerPoint, that is for the one what I am using to present this class now, that is PowerPoint presentation. Okay. And this is Adobe Acrobat, so this is for PDFs, and this is Office for Word, and this is Internet Explorer, is something what we call as browser. Okay, so all these, some of the examples for some application software. Hope all of you understood what is the difference between system software and application software. System software is very much specific for the system only, but whereas application is for the users, they will use the existing software and they can do some task. You can prepare your PPTs, you can draw some image, or you can paint something, or you can, when you want to browse something, or when you want some GPS you want to connect, or you want to prepare your resume, or some calculations you want to do. So for doing some few tasks as a user, so for which some softwares are already available, that softwares we call it as application softwares. Mostly non-computer people will be using application software. But system software, it can be known by the networking people, and mostly the details of them will be studied by the computer science students. Okay. Next concept is about operating system concepts. Okay. So every computer we have an operating system. Yes, how many of you have systems and desktops or laptops? So whenever you are on your system, you will get the operating system, which one you have installed, so that will be shown on the screen first. Windows, if you have Windows operating system, so that is Windows, it will show. If it is Ubuntu, it will show as Ubuntu. If it is Linux, it will show as Linux. Okay, so likewise every system, every computer system will have an operating system. Okay, so that will work as the communicator which interacts with the user and the machine. Okay, operating system is the one which will be acting as an intermediate one, which will be in between user and the machine. Okay, if you see the first diagram. So here the system software in this operating system will come. So this operating system internally will work as an interface or intermediate person between the hardware and the user. Okay, so that is what I am telling about the operating system now. Okay, and a software on machine interacts with the hardware via operating system, and it works like an intermediate between hardware and the user. So these are the points just now I was explaining. So here, and these operating systems are many types. So let's see for few of them. So single user and single task operating system. So something like desktop, the system what you have at your home with CPU and all. Okay, so single user, only single user can work on that system, and single operating system. So like when you are working with MS-DOS, so DOS means that prompting will be there, no DOS commands. So make directory, create directory, if you remember what you have learnt in your school days, MS-DOS. Okay, so that is an example of single user, single task operating system. And the next one, single user multitasking operating system. That is Windows 5 and later versions. See, the desktop what you are working at your home, only single user, the user can work. But you can do multitasking there. Maybe one window you might be browsing something, one window you have opened for creating your resume, one window you might be doing some packages of the things what you need. Okay, so likewise many windows are there, that is multitasking. Okay, so that can be done in Windows 95 and the next versions. Multi-user operating systems. So that comes with Linux, Unix, Windows 7. So usually multi-user operating systems will be installed in the colleges, organizations, offices where they maintain servers. Okay, so that server will be given the capability that so many number of systems can be accessed through that server. So then we say multi-user operating system. Many users can work with the operating system. And the next one is multi-processing operating system. Multi-processing means multi-user with multi-operating systems. Okay, so this also will be in the LAN WAN connections. So where multi-processing can be done for multitasking. Okay, and the next one is about real-time operating systems. So maybe even Most of us might not have experienced this, but this is Linux OS. So this is one example here, which in real time what they are going to use. So real time operating system. And the last one, I think easily you'll understand this, embedded operating system. So this is a device which will be embedded on ROM, read-only memory. So whether when the electronic machines, so based on some few instructions it is going to work, like microwaves, washing machines, traffic control systems. So these are the small machines, electronic machines. They are going to work on some small instructions. So microwave, I just keep microwave for 2 minutes or 30 seconds for my tea or coffee, or to just heat some food. So that is the instruction given to the system. So how it is going to be done? So there will be a chip, ROM. So on that it will be kept the instruction. So that is such type of things we call it as embedded operating system. Okay, such embedded ones in a device in the ROM, and such things are used for microwaves, washing machines, traffic control system, etc. Okay, so these are the operating system concepts. And the next one, let's see about objectives and functions of operating systems. So what are the main objectives of the operating system? So to compute a system convenient and to use for the users. So as I told you, it works like an intermediate between hardware and the user. So it makes easier. Okay, if some person is there in between some way where I can see, the third person I want to call, whom I am not able to see clearly. So I convey to the first person so that he will convey to the next one. Okay, so likewise that intermediate one is nothing but our operating system here between the hardware and the user. Okay, so that is the main objective of the operating system. First one, it makes the system very convenient and easy for us to use. And the next one, to use computer hardware in an efficient way by handling the details of operations of the hardware. Maybe using hardware devices, input devices, output devices, to using what device you are giving the inputs, using what device you are taking the output of the system. So all those things are efficiently handled by the operating system. So making us feel convenient and easy to use and using the hardware in an efficient way. So these are the two objectives of the operating system. And let's see functions of the operating system. So an operating system is an user interface. Okay, so as I told you, as soon as you are on the system, the booting process you may not see, but the first thing which will be appearing on your screen will be what operating system you might have installed in your system. So that we call it as user interface. Okay, and user can communicate with hardware by using the user interface operating system. Protection and security. So protection and security can be given by the operating system, like the files whatever you are giving, read mode, write mode. So read mode means whatever the files are there, if somebody else are viewing your system, they can only read. Or sometimes you can lock your files, nobody can view it, you need to enter the password. So such security systems can be done by the operating system. And device management. So device here comes under all the devices what we have learned under hardware. Okay, input output devices, output devices. So the usage of all those devices can be managed by the operating system. And file management. See, you are creating a file, opening a file, closing a file, editing a file. So those things comes under file management. And then memory management. See, whatever the file you create, you are going to store them in the memory. So that memory, is it utilized properly or randomly they are using and the rest of the space is it vacant there, wasted? So instead of wastage and all, so memory management concept of operating system, it will have its own algorithms in order to save the memory. Okay, if needed, some of the files will be compressed and saved. So likewise, the memory will be saved and properly managed. And process management. So whenever I am opening a browser and searching something, am I getting for what I am searching the results, or am I getting something else? Definitely you will get for what you are searching on. So that is nothing but process management. Exactly. See, I have opened 5 windows. First window I am searching for some Wikipedia. Second window I am searching for some images. Third window I am searching for some PPT. Okay. So each window will work accordingly. Is there any collision or overriding of the concepts in those things? No. Exactly in what window, what you have asked for, that only will be done. That is what the process management. Okay. So these are all the things, functions of operating system. An operating system itself is a single subject for computer science students, and this is the core paper, important subject. But for now, for you understand that it is a intermediate one, or the one who manages the hardware and the user. That is about the operating system and the different types of softwares, hardware we have learnt already, and the softwares are system software and application software, and the operating systems and their purposes and their functions. Okay. So the next topic is about algorithms. So any idea about an algorithm? Say suppose you want to prepare some recipe. Okay, you want to cook something for which you want to prepare some recipe. So before start preparing the recipe, what we have to do? We have to keep all the ingredients ready. Okay. So keeping all that ingredients ready and knowing the process is called algorithm. The process of how we are going to cook that recipe is called algorithm. Okay. So in our terminology, in computer science terminology, we say algorithm is an ordered sequence of finite instructions. Ordered sequence means one after the other only. First, you will wash them or soak them, whatever you say, no, for the recipe. So that is, it should be in order. It have to be followed accordingly, one after the other only. Okay. So that is ordered sequence we say. Of finite set of instructions means it may not be infinite. Uncountable steps won't be there for any procedure. Yes or no? When you want to prepare a recipe, will there be uncountable steps there to do a recipe? Then you won't end up with the end product only. You won't be able to prepare any recipe. If it is at infinite state, it's going on continuing, then you won't be able to do. So that is what? In the order, some sequence of steps with finite means countable steps. Maybe after 10 steps of procedure, so you will get the end product, end recipe what you want. So that is the one what we say finite. Well defined. So well defined means clearly giving. If you follow these steps with these ingredients, this is where you are going to end up. Okay. Clearly given is nothing but well defined. Unambiguous. There should not be any confusion. There should not be any confusion. Clearly, the steps have to be given for accomplishing a task. So, in order to do a task, we have sequence of steps which are well defined, which are not confusing in order to do a particular task. So, this definition clearly you can compare, remember this thing just like a recipe example. With that example in mind, you can learn this definition easily. Okay. So let's see the examples here. To find greatest among 3 numbers. So in order to find greatest of the 3 numbers, first step I need to start the procedure. Okay. So starting the procedure is the first step. Second step In order to find out greatest of three numbers, I need three numbers. So first those three numbers are read. So A, B, C. Okay, say 10, 20, 30. 10, 20, 30. Okay, so I need to find out greatest of these three numbers. So what exactly I am going to do? The next step, I am going to compare A and B. So A and B, when I compare, 10 and 20 are compared. If A is greater, is A greater? No. Okay, if at all A is greater, they have to move to step 4. Or else if B is greater, perform step 5. So B is greater, so we go to step 5. Compare B and C. So among these first two, whichever is greater, so that greater one should be compared with the next number what we have. Okay, so now compare A and C. Sorry, B and C, because B is greater, so we have to compare B and C. So 20 and 30. If B is greater, is B greater here? No. Else C is the greatest. So C is the greatest. Is it not so? Among 10, 20 and 30, 30 is greatest. So the logic here, what exactly we are doing is, we are taking three numbers A, B, C. First A and B are compared. Whichever is greater, that greater value will be compared with the third one. Okay, so if that greater value is the greater one, we will say that is greater, or else the third value will be the greatest one. Okay, so that is the procedure. So this is the algorithm how do we write for a particular problem in computer science. So before this logic is implemented in any programming language, so we call something like a structure, a skeleton is given by algorithms for coding. Okay, step by step procedure, we call it as algorithm. Okay, hope this is understood. Is it clear now? You want me to repeat anything? Please respond, one of you.
Clear, ma'am.
Okay, so let's continue with the next one. Say suppose the same example I can do in another way also. See, when I'm giving one problem where 60 students are there, so each one may not give the same solution. Everyone they have their own intellectuality. So based on that they can give the answer, yes or no. So similarly, so finding greatest of three numbers can be done in another way also. So here the algorithm, first step it's starting, they are reading the three numbers. So now you read these three numbers as, say some 80, say some 82 and some 81C. Okay, so compare A and B. So we are comparing these two, 80 and 82. If A is greater, store A in max. Is A greater? No. 80, 82. Is A greater? No. So 82 is greater. So B will be stored into max. So now what will be the max now? It will be 82. So max value among A and B will be stored into some other variable called as max. Okay. So now among these two, whichever is maximum, so that maximum value we are going to compare with the third one. So now compare max and C. So what is max? 82. 82 you compare with C value, that is 81. Okay. If max is greater, output we say max. So is 82 greater when we compare with 81? Yes. So max is greater as it is 82. Say suppose if this would have been 84. So in that case, max is not greater. Why? Because 82, 84. So in that case, C would be the greatest one. Okay. So here, if you see this procedure where we are using some max variable and every time we are storing max value into that and then comparing with the third one. So this is one kind of procedure. The first step is one kind of procedure, how you think and how you, it's based on your intellectuality. So here if you see, these are 5 steps. The same problem, here we are getting 6 steps. Okay. So and also algorithms can be analyzed. We can say which one is good based on number of lines of code and which can be executed faster when it is implemented in programming languages. Okay. Why? Because based on the number of lines, that much space it is going to occupy. So definitely the second procedure I can say best, because within 5 steps it is getting over, same purpose. Okay, so that is about algorithms. So the next one will move to flow chart. So by seeing the name itself, flow chart. So here what's happening is, we are going to talk about the flow, how exactly that flow continuation is going on. That we are going to show in the chart. That is what we call it as flow chart. And that diagrammatically if you can represent the logic what we have just learned, if that logic is diagrammatically represented to solve a problem, and such thing we call it as flow chart. And flow chart is drawn using boxes of different shapes, and each box is meant for specific flow control. And the purpose of drawing the flow control is to make the logic program clearer in visual form. Visually you can see what input you have given, what exactly the process, what it's happening. So in the next slide you will be learning about the different boxes, each one will be saying the different way. The logic of the program is communicated in much better way using flow chart, as it is a diagrammatical representation. So easily we will be able to convey what is the flow control. Okay. Flow chart is drawn using different kinds of symbols. So let's see those symbols now. So this is the flow chart notations. So if at all I want to show any process, so then I use only rectangle. Okay. So the next one, this is any alternate flow is there, then we can give. This is for decision or condition we say. This is for data, input, output we can say. For predefined procedures this we use. And this is for preparation. This is termination. Okay, ending when we say. Multi-document, this is document, this is storage, manual input, manual operation. These are the connectors. Maybe one page if it is not done. So end of the diagram we keep this connector, and in the next page we start with this. That means it's a connector, continuation of the first page to second page. Off page connector. This is card, punched tape, summing junction or collate, sort, sequential access storage, delay, stored data, merge, extract, magnetic disks, direct access storage, display, flow lines. Okay, so these are many symbols are available for us. Okay, so these many things are there for us. So using this for your process, what you want to show diagrammatically, so these things can be used and you can show. Okay, let's see the few more things for control structures. So if at all it is just only the sequence. Okay, start and stop. So these are the terminators. Okay, start and stop. And this is the input and output, these boxes, diagonal parallelograms we use. And here rectangle, this is the process. Okay, so this is the simple way, just one by one. So that flow control we call it as sequence. Say suppose when we have something called as selection, say based on condition, I say if you get marks more than 60, then first division. If you get not less than 60, then second division. Okay, like that. So some conditional based, when some condition is needed, so we are going to use the flow connectors arrows, and this is the condition box where you can give the condition. Say suppose say 10 greater than 5. 10 greater than 5. Is it true or false? True. So it goes this flow and we say 10 is greater than 5. Some statement here and it will come out. And this flow, no, it's not, 10 is not greater than 5, it will come out. So when some decisions, two-way decisions are there, so then we use selection process. And then iteration. Iteration means maybe the process will be continued. Say suppose when you go to some ATM, you insert your card as the input. So condition is you have to give the password correctly. If you give wrong password, again it will ask you to enter the password. Until you enter the correct password, this procedure will go on. Maybe some systems they'll give you choice for 3 times or 2 times, later it will be blocked. If you give correct, it will enter into the next thing, what exactly transaction what you want to do. So such looping until it is true, until it is that condition is satisfied. So such flow we call it as iteration. Okay. So in our procedures, if any of such things are needed, we can use either sequence, selection or iteration. So these things we call as control structures in flowchart. Okay. So let's see a few examples for this. Flowchart is something. So this is a sequence. Say suppose example of multiplying 2 numbers. So first I start and then read a comma b. Since two numbers I am taking a and b. C is equal to a into b, multiplication of 2 numbers. And this multiplication is stored into some other variable, print c. So I am printing c, that is what I want, and stop. This is just the example of sequence control structure. Whereas selection, so say suppose the same example what we have studied to find maximum of 3 numbers. So here you are reading ABC. Is A greater than B? Yes. So that A is stored into max. If not, B is stored into max. So anyway, either B will be max or A will be max. And that max will be compared with the C. If that max is greater than C, then max will be printed. If yes. If no, the other one, what is there, C will be printed. And then it will be stopping. So the same algorithm, what English instructions what we have given is called algorithm. But graphical notation what we are giving is flowchart. Okay, remember that. And this is the last example is for iteration. Iteration is, say suppose sum of 100 numbers they are taking say. So initially they start, so they start iterating for 1. 1 is equal to 0 plus 1. So is I greater than equal to 100? Yes. So again it will go. I is equal to 2. Okay. Sum is equal to sum plus 2. So likewise it will iterate for 100 times. When the value becomes 101. Okay. So then it is going to come out. Okay. When this condition is satisfying, it is come out. When it is doesn't satisfy, then it will go on iterating. So that is what we call it as iterations. Okay. So these are some of the examples of flowchart. And then quickly the last topic in the first part of unit 2 is about translators, compilers and interpreters. So let's see what is a translator. Just now I was telling you in the explanation of some concept here. So if 3 persons are there, only one person knows all 3 languages. Okay, the other 2 will know only 2. So then they need a translator in between to convey to the third person. First person you have to convey something to the third person means the intermediate person is the one who knows all the languages, so that he will work as a translator to the other one. Okay, so that is the purpose. So here in a computer science, a translator or a programming processor is a generic term. It's a general term which will be referring to anything that converts code from computer language into another. So here converting. Okay, so the manual example is whatever the first person conveyed, he is conveying the second person in which form he can understand, in which language he is understand. So that is what the intermediate person is doing. So similarly here, the translator will be doing that purpose within the system from one computer language into another. Okay, so here there are types of translators. So the translation of from one person to third person who is acting as a translator in between. So that translator can be of three types. So compilers, interpreters and assemblers. Compiler is something like I listen to the first person entire story and then I convey the story to the third person entirely. Okay, is that clear? Listening to the story from the first person, entire story I listen at once and conveying that story all at once to the third person in his language what he can understand. So that is what the compiler is doing. Interpreter means I listen to say one line or two lines of story from the first person and convey to the third person. So that is what interpreter. Okay, so the difference here is this is whole at a time, this is line by line. So I have underlined, you can just concentrate on those. So let's see the definitions here. Compiler is a translator used to convert high level programming language to low level programming language. Here when I say high level programming language is the language what we are writing in general English. So those English terminology the system may not understand. But it has to be converted into system language which is called as low level machine level language. So that is zeros and ones, binary language. So that can be done by the compiler. But how it will do? Whole document at once. It will convert whole program in one session and reports error detected after the conversion. So at a time the whole story will be converted into binary and given to the system. So that is about the compilers. Whereas interpreters, so they are just like compilers. They convert high level, the general English into the binary, but line by line. Okay. And the last one is an assembler is a translator used to translate assembly language into machine level language. So assembly level language is something where we have assembly level languages in specific. Okay, so some languages, hardware languages we say, so 1 minute. Okay, so these assembly level languages are something which are not like general English, but some kind of English only, but which some parts of can be understood, and even though they have to be converted into machine level language. So this will be done by the assemblers. It has some same function as compilers for the assembly language, but works like an interpreter. Okay, so it will convert that this assembly language into low level language, that is machine level language, but like interpreter means line by line. Okay, so that is what we call it as a assembler. Okay, so these are the topics what I wanted to cover today.